Good morning, San Diego. Welcome to Homefront. I'm your host, Eve Nasby, in studio with our co-host, AJ Brooks. AJ, we have another great show today.
We sure do.
I have an amazing guest, Janis Whitaker from VetCtap, and she's going to talk about the class that she offers for free up in North County to help transitioning veterans successfully transition from their military work life into civilian work life. So it's going to be great.
We also have Shawn VanDiver from the Truman National Security Project.
Love those guys.
He's here in the Heroes section. Shawn doesn't like to think of himself as a hero, but he's going to tell us who are heroes.
Yep.
He's going to be talking about the rose drop that they do to honor our fallen service members at the cemetery on Memorial Day weekend.
Yes, and you also have a young lady leading by my ponytail.
That's right, Dr. Julie Ducharme.
Yes.
She wrote a book with a Marine Corps officer, Dr. Karen Walker, about how women can enter into business and work in the military in any environment, whether you may be sort of outnumbered or in a different culture.
And our viewers are not going to want to miss that pink studded shoe that she's got too.
You know, it's a great visual example of what she's there to talk about, which is you shouldn't be bound by gender or experience or background, that you should be able to be who you are and get ahead based on your merit and how hard you work.
Awesome. Well, let's get this show started this morning, AJ.
Here on Homefront. Welcome back to Homefront Heroes. Here in the Heroes segment today, we have Shawn VanDiver. Shawn, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, AJ.
Shawn, you are the chapter director of the Truman National Security Project here in San Diego, is that right?
That is absolutely correct.
So we invited you to be in the Heroes segment, and you winced a little bit when I asked you. I know you're a humble guy, but I think there's a lot of reasons that you're here. One, you're a single dad, you're a Navy veteran, and your son had perfect attendance last year, and I think by any parent standard, that makes you a hero. Is that fair?
That's fair.
It takes a village, though. I know you have a lot of people that love your son and help your family out. Being a dad and being a Navy veteran, you care a lot about national security. And I know you got involved with the Truman National Security Project because of this 4D approach to leveraging expertise from across the political spectrum, from across all types of backgrounds and sectors. Can you tell us a little bit about what 4D means?
Sure. So 4D national security is the idea that that you need not just hard defense, but hard defense is important, right? We live in a military town here in San Diego. We see our hard defense every time we drive west. We see all the ships on the waterfront and the aircraft carriers. But equally important, maybe more so, are the diplomacy, democracy, and development sides of national security as well. Because if we're just going to have hard defense, then what's without all the rest of them, what's the point of having
I always hear that example like a four-legged stool.
Absolutely.
The defense is maybe the one that's most visible, but the other parts of the stool that prop it up are diplomacy, democracy, and development.
That's correct.
Now, we've had other friends of the show that are part of Truman. Nathan Fletcher's been on Homefront Radio, Maggie Seymour's been here on Homefront Television, and they come from different backgrounds, but they all care about one thing, and that's keeping America safe. I know Memorial Day is coming up, and the real reason you wanted to come on the show is not to highlight yourself, but in the Homefront Heroes segment, highlight those that have given all and that are buried here in San Diego at the Arlington of the West Coast, Rosecrans Cemetery.
That's right. Fort Rosecrans is the second largest national cemetery in our country, second only to Arlington. And they have more than 86,000 graves there, 55,000 of which are in the ground. The rest of them are on the walls of the columbariums. They're interred in the walls. So we're going to be laying 55,000 roses on May 29th at Fort Rosecrans at sunrise. And we do that because we want to remember, we try to bring the community leaders and political leaders in San Diego together with the military in an effort to remember that if you are representing somebody here in San Diego, whether it's an elected office or as a community leader, you are representing somebody who's willing to give their life.
That's right.
And somebody who's willing to give their life for our country. And so we invite folks out at sunrise to wake up, do a little bit of reflection. You say the name, you drop the rose, and then we all enjoy some coffee and we hear some stories about some folks that we've lost who've given the ultimate sacrifice for our country.
You know, when I hear things about development, in other countries so that they have safety and security, when I hear about diplomacy, I know about the State Department, I hear about democracy. I know Nathan Fletcher is a friend of Truman, a member of the board, and someone who had worked in other countries to help make sure that democracy happened. But this idea of honoring defense and the ultimate cost, it's not just guns, it's not just glory, this idea that there's a cost associated with it. Truman has chosen this day, Memorial Day, to honor that through a rose drop.
Absolutely we have, and it's so important. I mean, we're out there fighting every day to further the cause of 4D national security. If we're going to go in and we're going to show our hard defense capabilities, we need to back it up with that defense, or with the diplomacy, the democracy, and the development. And we need to recognize that there is a cost to all of that, and we see that cost every day at Rosecrans.
You know, I've been to the ceremony before, and I know a lot of times veterans are reluctant to participate in Memorial Day services because they don't want to be thanked for their service. That's for Veterans Day.
Absolutely.
You know, Memorial Day is about those that gave all.
Indeed.
Those that sacrificed that full measure. And I've been to some of those ceremonies sometimes that feel like they're for show. And that's a hard thing to say as a veteran, especially knowing that I've had friends that have lost their lives in defense of the nation. But your ceremony, there's no politicians on the stump.
That's right.
There are no suits allowed.
Yep.
You want people to show up, to come as they are, dressed to walk around.
That's correct.
And dressed to honor. And what moved me most by participation last year was that it was reverent and that it set the tone for Memorial Day weekend. Most of us think of Memorial Day weekend as another day off. It started off as a morning on for me, and it set the tone.
Exactly.
And I think it was probably one of the most meaningful Memorial Days I've ever had.
Well, thank you. I think it's important to point out that you're exactly right. There's no suits allowed. We do have a lot of politicians there, but specifically we request that they not wear a suit, that they don't talk to the cameras. And there's two examples that I'd like to use. That's Councilmember Chris Cate, who showed up and did exactly what we asked him to do, showed up, placed some roses. But in particular, Congressman Scott Peters showed up. He had driven 2.5 hours. He was on vacation that weekend with his family. He drove 2.5 hours to get to the cemetery by 5:30 in the morning. Waited until right before the ceremony started, walked up, kind of gave the head nod, hey, I'm here. Thanked me for putting it together and thanked the Truman members for putting it together. Grabbed some roses, went out, said the name, dropped the rose. Then he got in his car and left.
But it wasn't a photo op. It wasn't a reason to talk. And for people who aren't paying attention, you picked politicians from both sides of the aisle.
I did.
Someone local and someone that represents us federally. And that's the spirit, I think, of national security, that there should be bipartisan cooperation, that we should leverage the experience of the past and have a balanced approach. Truman isn't just serious policy, and it's not just showing honor to those that we've lost. It's also some fun. I know that you guys take people out there and show capabilities. You've done a tour of the Zumwalt.
That's correct. That's correct. So Truman is kind of split into two organizations, right? We have a 501c3 nonprofit, the Truman Center for National Policy, that issues nonpartisan papers and reports, and we also host a lot of educational events, such as tours of the Zumwalt or tours of defense assets, and the rose drop or the rose ceremony, as well as salons. Quarterly we host educational salons where we pick two topics that are separate but related, and we talk about the two topics individually and then how they relate. And it usually goes from 6 to 9 p.m. in an evening at somebody's home, and there's food, there's drinks, and we bring together folks from the business community, both big and small, the academic community, the military community.
Shawn, I've been to some, and they're very well attended. Yep. I know we've got listeners at home, they're watching the show, that want to get involved. Where can I log on to donate my time or show up to the Rose Drop or get involved in Truman?
Absolutely. So I know that the link will be up on the screen at some point during the show. And if you want to volunteer, you can go to bit.ly/rosedroprSVP.
So if someone's got time, they can show up and volunteer, and if they've got money, they can donate to make it happen.
Yep.
Shawn, you're a friend of the show. You're welcome back anytime. You're one of my favorite guests. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much.
That was Shawn VanDiver, one of our favorite guests here on the Homefront Heroes segment.
I came into my transition with an extremely short timeline, and I didn't have the resources or the knowledge to know what I needed to do or where I needed to be looking for my next job. THF gave me direction, helped me look inside myself, and made me ultimately successful in taking that leap from the military sector over into the civilian sector.
Welcome back to Homefront. We are in our finance segment. I'm your host, Eve Nasby, in studio with my good friend, Janis Whitaker and Kory Hernandez. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you.
You've got so much to give, and our community that's transitioning from the military into the civilian workforce needs your services. And that transition is really hard, as you know. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But Janis, talk about VetCtap and the vision and the history behind it.
So VetCtap came from a concept from Sandra Fichter.
Love her. She's awesome.
who was in the Army, and when she got out, became an HR professional, human resources, and she found as she was looking at resumes that, her fellow vets just really were not portraying the concepts that they needed on in their interviews or in their resume, and it just didn't come out strong and show the real strengths that they have. So she decided to create a workshop series that would help them with that transition with their resumes and interviewing.
Yeah, I know I've seen resumes because I'm in the employment field, as you know, and I've seen resumes from folks who say, I was a sniper. And that's pretty much all they put on there. And I'm thinking, gosh, you know what, I can't work with that. Let's talk about a little bit more about your leadership skills, et cetera. So drilling down on that, what are the different, how long is the class, and then what do you cover? You cover, obviously, resume writing, but what about interviewing skills and networking? Talk about what the class looks like.
Exactly. So actually, it's an 8-module workshop series. We specialize specifically in job search skills. So it's resume writing, networking, interview skills, and a lot more than that. We conduct mock interviews and give them feedback. Lots of different things that we cover.
So Janis, how long is this, and what's my time commitment? Is it nights, is it mornings, weekends? What's that look like?
Okay, so it's 8 modules, and basically they're held 2 nights a week for 4 weeks.
Okay.
So sometimes it's scary. People say, oh, 4 weeks.
Sure.
But it's just 2 nights a week for 4 weeks, and they're 3 hours each.
That's great.
And it is in the evening. So we do that specifically so active duty military can work during the day and then come to our workshops at night.
So when you're looking at a resume, what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're writing their resume?
Oh, number one mistake is being able to translate their military jargon and information to information that a civilian or corporate person can understand.
Yeah. And what about I'm kind of teasing the audience a little bit because we want them to come to your programs because it's free. And if it's free, it's for me. It's for all of us, right?
Exactly.
So you've got the resume. Then what about interview? What do you think the biggest mistakes, and what are you teaching us as we're going through your class about how to hit that interview out of the park?
So military folks sometimes are really shy about boasting about themselves and telling how great they are and the skills and abilities they have. So one of the things we do is try to get them out of that shell so that they can talk about the actual skills, abilities, and phenomenal things that they've done in the military
Agreed.
and how it translates to the civilian and corporate career.
Well, you brought Kory with you today. Kory, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
So everything that she's talking about, from the resume writing, the interview skills, did you find that as you were transitioning out? So give us a little history of your career and then
Okay.
how it was when you transitioned out.
Well, thank you for having me again. So I spent 24 years on active duty in the Navy as a career hospital corpsman. And as I got closer to the end of my career, I reached out to some of my mentors and who had gone before me and retired. And a couple of them had recommended VetCtap to me, so I looked into it and I signed up and I believe I attended the April of 2015 course. And I found it to be in the military has programs, but they tend to be very condensed and very canned, if you will.
Yeah, like throw up all over your desk and
Right.
expect you to retain something.
Right.
And VetCtap's very specialized. It's
Yeah.
different.
I found them to be more of a check in the box versus
Right.
actually very useful for
Yeah.
me. So while I was grateful for the resources that they offer, I found VetCtap offered me much more with in regards to like interviewing skills, learning to open up during an interview,
Right.
utilizing my network more, and learning how to socialize my skills.
And while you were in VetCtap, you had the opportunity to interview with your current employer. So tell us that story.
Yes, I did. I was I was in the process of developing my LinkedIn profile, and I happened to take a few hints from some friends and expanded that network, and saw a position for North County Health Services looking for an operations director. And at the time, being new to coming into the civilian sector, wasn't sure, was my resume up to par? Was it, was this something that would, that would sell to my employer, my current employer now? So I ran it by a few people, and then I just went for it, and I got a phone call back initially, and initially I was denied the position because of my availability. Right. So that was one thing I learned, was to make sure that my availability was going to be
Match their need.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So and that's one thing I share with the transitioning veterans. But then the other thing, I very well probably could have just moved on, but then later on, I saw that they were still had that position open, and so I called them back and I let them know that, well, I can change my availability. I just had to be, I had to change around some of my terminal leave and stuff, maybe change some plans that I had because I love their mission.
Yep.
I mean, their motto, "We're here for you." It says everything.
Yep.
And
out of 700 employees, 21 of them are veterans, and
Yes,
they're focused
correct.
on hiring more veterans
Yeah.
because you told me before they see what in you guys.
Not just a depth of technical skills, but they see the diversity in our leadership styles, anywhere from the clinical skills all the way up to executive leadership.
So why should companies hire veterans? Sometimes you hear like, well, they're just order takers or order givers. What do you think the biggest value for an employer is to hiring a veteran?
Well, so you say, why should companies hire veterans? Well, I say, why not? Why should you hire a new grad? Why not? We have the same sets of skills, if not a greater depth of skills and experience than somebody who's just coming straight out of college.
And the leadership?
Leadership, you learn how to be a leader from day one,
Right.
whether you're leading one junior person or
Yep.
if you're leading 40 or 50.
Exactly. Thank you so much for being a part of our show. And Janis, how do you guys make your money? Your free service to spouses and transitioning and veterans. How does VetCtap make their money?
So VetCtap is a nonprofit organization, so we rely upon the goodness of others through grants, corporate donations, and individual donations. If people are interested, they can always go to our website at vetctap.org and feel free to make a donation.
Well, you know what? I have known you for a long time, and the work that you're doing, Janis, at VetCtap is outstanding. And it produces, obviously, great people who now understand how to successfully navigate into the civilian workforce, which is, of course, not easy.
It wasn't easy, but it's doable.
Right, and you do it. So I would encourage everyone to support VetCtap. Thanks for being a part of our show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eve.
We will be right back with more of Homefront. Don't go away.
I spent most of my career working for the same company.
In my previous job, I traveled to over 14 different countries.
Being able to adapt is everything.
When it came time for a career change, it was in my mind that things were going to be easy.
I had difficulty conveying my accomplishments in a way that modern corporate America could understand.
The hiring manager looked at me like I was speaking another language.
I just wasn't getting hired, and I couldn't understand why.
And that's when it all made sense to me.
That's when I truly started to understand.
While there's 500,000.
500,000.
500,000 unemployed military veterans in the United States.
So I decided to reach out for help.
So I came across Hire Heroes USA from just searching online.
My veterans transition specialist, he understood my lingo and helped me translate my lingo.
They really, truly care and actually looking for you to be successful.
With career coaching and employment workshops, Hire Heroes USA empowers military members, veterans, and spouses in their job search at no cost to them. Go to hireheroesusa.org to learn how you can support our mission.
I'm your host, AJ Brooks. Welcome back to the Homefront Family section. In this segment, we're going to be meeting Dr. Julie Ducharme, an author. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I said author, but I started short because you're a former professional volleyball player, you're a doctor of business administration, you're a professor, you're an entrepreneur. It feels like a little, I'm shorting you by just calling you an author.
Well, thank you. I have a lot of things that I do, and there are a lot of different passions that I really enjoy. And I said yes to a lot of things before they got bigger, and now they're bigger, but it's a blessing. So I'm enjoying it.
You're the author, a co-author, along with Dr. Karen Walker, and she's a lieutenant colonel of the United States Marine Corps, is that right?
Yes, she is.
And you guys co-authored this book called Leading by My Ponytail. Can you talk to us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Karen and I really wanted to come out with a really raw, honest book about our experiences as women in the industries that were very male-dominated, and have some tips and some different things for women to really encourage and empower them. There's lots of stuff out there, but we felt that our book was really unique and really raw and honest, and we wanted to just really have a conversation with women. And that's how we came about it. We're both academic people, so we really had to reach beyond our normal comfortable zone to actually put this out there, but we really feel that it's been a success, and we're really starting to reach out to women.
So So Dr. Julie Ducharme and Dr. Karen Walker, you said we're both academic people, but you're another A word. You're also both athletes.
Yes.
You're a 6-foot-tall Viking, and she's an aggressive point guard mongoose. And there's different approaches to leading, and there's different approaches to getting things done. And I've read the book, and I think that even though the book is written for women, there's a lot of strategies in that book that apply to anyone. You know, these aren't just issues for women. They're issues for people who are in industries where they may not be in the dominant role. You know, men in elementary education, you know, women in the business world. And I think it's a really important lesson to learn.
Absolutely. I think when you enter an industry, you definitely have to have a strategy. For us, being women in a male-dominant industry, we didn't have a lot of mentoring, and there was no rule book. We were really going off of our experiences from like sports and teamwork and leading. And, you know, as you mentioned that, we have a lot of male readers as well as for our podcast, a lot of male listeners. And we get really interesting emails from them saying, I read your book and I love it. And
what a surprise.
It is a surprise because we were really focusing on women. But I mean, overall, you know, we've mentored men and women in this. And, you know, I agree with you. It's all about knowing your industry and your angle and being able to understand how to get through that, which I think everyone has experienced that in some way. And I get, one of our biggest fans is her dad, who has also been in the military, and he talks about how much he loves the book. And I was shocked when I heard it. You know, I thought, oh, a guy read this and liked it? Awesome. So yeah, it definitely can be applied.
There's a Maya Angelou quote that I'm going to mess up here, but I'm going to paraphrase. She says, you know, I'm fully human, so no experience is foreign to me. It doesn't matter what you look like, what your gender is, what your experience is, how old you are. We all deal with the same insecurities and frustrations and setbacks, and a lot of the advice you give really applies to everyone. Now, I've never worn a pair of these, not for very long, but we brought this out today because you have programs that are specially designed for women. You know, here on Homefront, we aim to be the voice of the veteran community, and you started a program called Combat Boots to Heels, and it's designed to help female vets transition to the business world. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. One of the areas that Karen reached out to me about when we wrote this book is about transition, and her transition out of the military with a PhD and a lot of years of experience was a struggle. And we started thinking, gosh, if you have all this experience and this was such a struggle for you, what about all of our other women out there who maybe don't have all the degrees and all the experience? So we really took what we had in the book and changed it into a class. We call it a program, Combat Boots to Heels, that has 5 modules where you get to go in and really learn how to adjust your behavior to fit into the work setting. Because with every situation, if you work somewhere for a long time, you've got that mentality, and you go into another situation, and oftentimes that's not, you've got to adjust that. And so we focus on femininity, self-efficacy, emotional intelligence, and teamwork, which are all areas that women excel in, but oftentimes those are squelched in a male-dominated environment. So we retrain them on how to take these areas and really become strong in them, so that way they can transition in the workforce and have some real success.
You know, the title of the book is Leading by My Ponytail, but the subtitle underneath is Why Can't I Wear Pink and Be President?
Yes.
So I wore a pink lapel pin today, and I know we have this pink heel prop. All 3 of you, both you, your co-author, and the combat veteran pilot who wrote the foreword, all sort of expressed this disdain for pink as this sort of being forced on you as young girls, and then all of you have sort of embraced it as a power color.
Absolutely. We took pink as really a symbol of femininity. And all of us, myself, Karen, Vernice, we've all been in industries, we've played sports, we've been in these male-dominant industries, and we very much tried to embrace what was surrounding us.
Right.
And we took our femininity and stuck it in the pocket and said, you know, that there's no place for that. And when we came out of it, we popped our heads up and went, what are we doing? The best part of our leadership and our skills is if we embrace who we are and embrace our femininity and stop trying to do something that doesn't really fit for me. It works for other people, but not for me. And so we have embraced pink, even though we're not like huge pink fans, because it's our symbol.
Right.
So
I think when you do things like skills finders, this idea that, you know, you can write with your left hand if you're right-handed, but why not embrace the thing that you're already good at? Could you relist those skills again?
Absolutely. It's femininity, self-efficacy, emotional intelligence, and teamwork.
You know, I think I've read over and over again that emotional intelligence is even more important as we rely on automated systems and programs to do all kinds of work. We still need that human connection.
Absolutely.
You know, you and I both talked before about that idea of mind, body, and spirit, and needing to have a balance between those, especially when things don't go well. Your book focuses so much on success, and most books focus on success, but one of the things I really enjoyed about your book was this focus on how you deal with setbacks. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Myself and Karen have definitely had some setbacks. We talked about how people have told me I'm not smart, I'm too young for the job, I'm not good enough, a long list of things. And, first I had to mentally know that I was good enough, and that's tough. I had to really surround myself with people who said, hey, don't listen to that. You've got to move forward. And that's where my sports mentality comes in. Spiritually relying on my faith is very, very important to me, and it makes such a huge difference. And then, of course, balance.
Right.
When things get frustrating, I go for a paddleboard ride or a kayak or a walk and just get out and get that physical, fresh mentality out there.
And I think one thing you always talk about, too, is backing each other up. Friendship matters, fellowship matters, and you're a friend of this show. You're welcome back anytime. Dr. Julie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
That was Dr. Julie Ducharme, author of Leading by My Ponytail, here on Homefront Family.
I spent most of my career working for the same company.
In my previous job, I traveled to over 14 different countries.
Being able to adapt is everything.
When it came time for a career change, it was in my mind that things were going to be easy.
I had difficulty conveying my accomplishments in a way that modern corporate America could understand.
The hiring manager looked at me like I was speaking another language.
I just wasn't getting hired, and I couldn't understand why.
And that's when it all made sense to me.
And that's when I truly started to understand.
While there's 500,000.
500,000.
500,000 unemployed military veterans in the United States.
So I decided to reach out for help.
So I came across Hire Heroes USA from just searching online.
My veteran transition specialist, he understood my lingo and helped me translate my lingo.
They really, truly care and actually looking for you to be successful.
With career coaching and employment workshops, Hire Heroes USA empowers military members, veterans, and spouses in their job search at no cost to them. Go to hireheroesusa.org to learn how you can support our mission.
Well, that's another edition of Homefront. Eve, we had some fantastic guests today.
Amazing guests. I had Janis Whitaker from VetCtap teaching our veterans and spouses, those who are transitioning out of the military into the civilian workforce, how to do so very successfully. And of course, she brought Kory Hernandez with her as Exhibit A of how they can do that very successfully. And it's for free, so love VetCtap.
Free is always good.
Yes.
We also, in the hero segment, had Shawn VanDiver
Yes.
who talked about some real American heroes that are going to be honoring this Memorial Day weekend.
And placing roses on graves, what an incredible thing to get behind. So donations are welcome at their website as well.
And if you don't have money to donate, you can donate your time and go out there and be part of the ceremony.
Yep, great thing to do with your family. Teach your kids.
We also had Dr. Julie Ducharme, a co-author with Dr. Karen Walker from the Marine Corps.
The pink shoe.
That's right, Leading by My Ponytail.
That's right.
And I thought that was really important, especially as we go into Mother's Day weekend. We all have moms, and we want to honor them.
Yeah, exactly.
On behalf of the entire Homefront family, we'd like to thank all moms and wish you all a happy Mother's Day.
And if you know of folks that we need to interview here at Homefront, please reach out to us. You can follow us on Facebook. Homefrontmedia.org is our website. With that website and link up with us then. And until next week, have a great day.